Hi. Welcome to Luna Listens to Books channel. If you like my channel, please like and subscribe. Now the story begins. 1 week into our marriage, I uncovered my husband's secret. A decade of love had become nothing but a cruel joke. I swallowed my tears and made the resolute decision to divorce to stop my losses in time. But before I could even file for divorce, karma came knocking. Discovering my husband's affair while ordering takeout, life couldn't get any worse, or so I thought. As they say, when you're having a bad day, even drinking water can get you choked. The information on my iPad was like a bucket of cold water, drenching me from head to toe. Pressed my lips together and quickly scrolled through the messages. Make sure the flowers are fresh, it's my wife's birthday tomorrow, can you guarantee on-time delivery? And make sure the bouquet looks nice. Oh, and don't forget, we need another one the day after tomorrow, it's our 3rd anniversary, the date was May 3rd. The same day I married Sebastian Rutledge, the delivery address was Driffia. I pressed my lips together and, trembling, opened the public transport app, using Sebastian's ID. Sure enough, Sebastian's business trip was scheduled for May 4th. According to the app, the iPad slipped from my hand. I lay on the couch, my mind a blank slate, dumbfounded. Sebastian and I had been in a relationship for 10 years, and we'd finally made it to the altar, and yet, just 4 days after our wedding, I found out about his affair. Could anything be more absurd, our 3rd anniversary celebration? So they'd been together for 3 years, and I had been entirely clueless. Tears fell one by one, icy but with a burning heat. On our wedding night, Sebastian had told me he had a business trip the next day. I'd been upset at the time. Who goes on a business trip the day after their wedding? His company had no sense of decency. But Sebastian had held me and reassured me for a long time, explaining that his company's CEO had just switched jobs, and they were looking to promote someone, had to seize this opportunity and work hard. Our future together was long, and we had no need to rush. I believed him. I packed his luggage with my own hands, worrying that he wouldn't have enough clothes or familiar daily items. I meticulously packed, working late into the night. At that moment, Sebastian was sitting on the couch, laughing at me as he sent text messages. He called me a sweetheart and said I was like a silly fool, that he could buy anything there. In hindsight, I was incredibly foolish. He'd been texting his lover while making fun of me. And me, I had been taking care of him with all my heart. It served me right. All of this stemmed from my trust in him. I had always trusted Sebastian. If it weren't for my reluctance to cook tonight, I wouldn't have picked up the iPad, opened the food delivery app, and logged into his account. The food delivery account was Sebastian's. He'd probably forgotten to log out, had intended to place an order, and had no intention of checking the order history. However, after waiting for over half an hour and still not receiving the delivery, I opened the order. When I saw the flower order, roses, 99 of them. I looked at the chat history and was stunned. Those carefully hidden facts suddenly appeared before me. It hit me like a barrage of bullets, leaving me in ruins. I had been with Sebastian for 10 years, and he'd only given me flowers twice. Once we went to his hometown, and he picked some wildflowers from the roadside, binding them together and handing them to me. The day was beautiful, the spring wind gentle. He held the bouquet, gazing at me with tenderness, and said he wanted to protect me for the rest of his life. And I was just like those wildflowers he had picked, so casually, easy to obtain. The other time was on Valentine's Day when we went shopping together. A young girl selling flowers had held onto his shirt, and he bought one for me. Tears streamed down my face, but they couldn't wash away the bitterness in my heart. The doorbell rang, and the delivery had finally arrived. My favorite dish, spicy chicken with rice. I took a spoonful of rice and put it in my mouth, my expression blanked. Today's meal was so unappetizing. The sky had darkened. At exactly 7 p.m., my phone rang. I stared at the screen for a long time and, in the last second before hanging up, pressed the answer button. Sebastian's gentle voice came through the phone. Jennifer, have you eaten? I pressed my lips and replied softly, yes, I ate. What's wrong? You don't seem very cheerful. I've been busy today, feeling a bit tired. Then get some rest. I'll be back in a few days. I love you, sweetie, okay, you get some rest too. The call ended abruptly. I stood up suddenly, picked up my phone, and booked a flight to Drifia. I boarded the plane. I looked at the pitch-black sky outside the window and closed my eyes. Sebastian and I shared the same hometown and were college classmates. We met during a college alumni gathering while I was in my sophomore year and Sebastian in his junior year, only met once, but Sebastian was smitten, launching an intense pursuit. Breakfast deliveries, saving seats, doing part-time work to buy gifts, he did everything expected in a college romance. Though I was reserved, I couldn't resist Sebastian's tenderness, and it didn't take long for me to fall for him. Sebastian had hand-washed my underwear during my menstrual periods. Sebastian had saved 3 months of salary to buy me a handbag. Sebastian had emptied his pockets just to give me all he had. But Sebastian, the one who said he loved only me, was celebrating another woman's birthday in a different city just 2 days after our wedding. I couldn't believe it. I told myself that I only believed in what I saw with my own eyes at Drifia. When I arrived at the address, it was already 3 a.m. There were no hotels nearby, but there was a 24-hour coffee shop. I ordered a coffee and sat by the floor-to-ceiling window, watching the twilight gradually fade as the sun slowly rose. The coffee shop's location was perfect, right across from the entrance to the residential area. I saw it immediately when Sebastian walked out of the complex gate with a young woman on his arm. It was 9 a.m. at that moment. In that instant, I felt my blood turn to ice. My Sebastian, the one who claimed he loved only me, was hugging the waist of that girl, chatting and laughing as they headed to a breakfast place. I watched them enter the restaurant. I watched the two of them stand by a table near the door, watched Sebastian use a napkin to wipe the chair clean for the girl, and then I watched him seat her. It was as if my blood was about to freeze. In the first few years of our relationship, Sebastian had been just as caring with me. He wiped down restaurant tables for me to sit at, warmed up my water before giving it to me, and cut my fruit into bite-sized pieces. He had been meticulously taking care of me. It was the reason I fell for him and had such deep feelings for him. Now, it all seemed ironic and absurd. Turned out that he could offer tenderness to anyone. I took a sip of my now cold and bitter coffee. When I put down the coffee cup, my face had returned to its usual calm demeanor. I picked up my phone and recorded a video of the two of them interacting. Then, I intentionally dialed Sebastian's number. I saw Sebastian rush outside in a panic to answer the phone. "Jennifer, why are you calling at this hour?" Sebastian's voice was as gentle as ever. I replied calmly, "I have the day off today and just wanted to check in on you. What are you doing?" "I'm at a client's office. Have you had breakfast?" "No, I don't feel like it, and I can't eat." "What's wrong?" "I was watching a TV series last night, and the male lead was a scumbag. He cheated on his wife, and nothing bad happened to him." Got me all worked up. My voice was detached, however. Sebastian didn't detect anything unusual and responded seriously, "Silly, it's just a TV show, don't overthink it. Only upsetting yourself. Be a good girl and have breakfast, I'm quite busy." "All right." In my memory, Sebastian had always been straightforward, not one for sweet talk or lies. What I saw one after the other had opened my eyes to a whole new side of him. The image of the past had been shattered into pieces. After waiting for another 10 minutes or so, the two of them finished breakfast and walked hand in hand into the residential area. I had a plan in mind, so I followed. Once they entered the complex, I approached the security guard with a friendly smile. After I offered him a cigarette, the guard became even more friendly. "Bro, I have a friend who lives here, think it's either in building 3, apartment 301, or maybe 302. Can you check for me?" Naturally, the security guard obliged. "What's your friend's name? Let me check." "We're from the same village, I used to call her Elaine, could you check if there's a name like that?" The guard laughed, "That name is too rural, your friend can't be very old, right? She definitely wouldn't have a name like that. Hang on, let me check. Apartment 301 is registered to Mohammed, and 302 is Sebastian. It seems both are men. Is your friend married?" My heart skipped a beat, but my expression remained calm. She's not married, so neither of those can be her. Maybe she's renting a place. I'm pretty sure she lives in Building 3, Apartment 301, or 302. The guard thought for a moment. Could it be Miss Gilbert? Miss Gilbert lives in 302, and she's been here for about 3 years. I saw her and her boyfriend just enter the building. Do you want me to call them for you? I verified that her last name was indeed Gilbert. I got the information I wanted and pretended, no, her last name is not Gilbert. This Stoudwood complex? The security guard chuckled. No, we're in the wrong place. Stoudwood complex is in the other direction, about 2 kilometers away. I thanked him and left. As soon as I turned around, I couldn't hold back the smile that had been building. It had already been 3 years. It was true that I was the only fool, wasn't it? The coffee shop had its air conditioning on, as it was already hot at this hour. I wrapped my arms around myself and huddled on the couch, my eyes never leaving the residential area across the street. Back then, when I went to Tufus to find Sebastian, it was just as cold. However, that was during winter. Now, it was the peak of summer. My parents didn't approve of my marriage with Sebastian. Sebastian's family had average financial conditions, and he had a younger brother. His mother was known for being an aggressive figure in the local complex. My mom learned about all this and strongly objected. She threatened that if I insisted on marrying Sebastian, I shouldn't consider her my mother anymore. At that time, I said that I loved Sebastian. As long as he was outstanding, nothing else mattered. For this, I had a big argument with my parents and, carrying my suitcase, set off for Tufus on my own. At that time, Sebastian had only graduated for a year and was ambitious when he went to Tufus. However, life had beaten him down. At that time, Sebastian lived in a basement. It was cold and dark. I joined him in that cold underground place, and we lived there for year after year. When we were at our poorest, we survived on 3 meals of instant noodles a day. I lost 12 kilograms that month. At the time, Sebastian held me and promised that he would give me a home one day, but I felt that anywhere Sebastian was, that was my home. He also said that he had wronged me and that he would never let me be wronged like that again in this lifetime. Later, he started his own business. He used the money we'd scrimped and saved to venture into the world. At the most exhausting times, he'd break down in tears, hold him in my arms and tell him that it was okay, and even if we fail, we could start over. We were still young. To ease Sebastian's burden, I worked 3 jobs alone for those 2 years. Our meals consisted of bread or whatever we could pick up on the go. This lifestyle led to me developing severe stomach issues. All the money I had saved was given to Sebastian. He laughed at me, saying that I wasn't worried he'd take the money and run. Confidently said I trusted him, was the person I had chosen for life, and he couldn't treat me that way. Perhaps it was this trust that bred his growing ambitions and desires. After that, his business venture failed. All the money we'd invested went down the drain. We're back to square one, with not even enough for living expenses. Eventually, I had to shamelessly ask my dad for a loan of $2,000. At that time, Sebastian promised that he would treat me well for the rest of his life, ordered one coffee after another. I thought about how he had promised never to let me be wronged, but all the pain and suffering I had gone through was because of him. His so-called lifetime turned out to be so short. I waited for another hour or so, and Sebastian and the girl appeared again at the entrance to the residential area. I got up quickly, took a detour, found a discreet spot, and took a couple of intimate photos of the two of them. Then, I turned and left. In the afternoon, I arranged to meet with a private investigator. I sent the photos I'd taken and set a time. This time, I went straight to a nearby hotel, thought I wouldn't be able to sleep, but I ended up sleeping until the next afternoon. When I opened my eyes, I was greeted by an abundance of photos from the private investigator. Even intimate photos. I was speechless and sent a message to compliment him. "Your speed is impressive. I thought I'd have to wait for at least a few days." He replied quickly, this was no big deal. The main thing was that they weren't trying to hide anything. Everyone thought they were a couple, but the photos were taken at the last minute. I promptly paid the fee and returned home with the photos. 3 days later, Sebastian returned. This time, he was unusually cold and distant towards me. I was puzzled by his behavior when I received a message from the private investigator. Special update: the mistress is pregnant with your husband's child. and he may ask for a divorce, act fast. I couldn't help but laugh and cry at the same time, but I was immensely grateful. Sebastian arrived home late in the evening and, citing exhaustion, we slept in separate beds. The next day, I was still contemplating how to confront him, but Sebastian beat me to it. Jennifer, let's get a divorce. Although I had anticipated it, I was still stunned for a moment. I stared at him coldly, and my eyes welled up with tears before I could speak. Sebastian looked at my expression, his heart softened, and he tried to say something to salvage the situation, but then he remembered the pregnancy report the other woman had presented, and he steeled himself. Jennifer, I want a divorce. This time, I spoke up, my voice hoarse. Why? Even though I knew the reason, I wanted to hear it from him personally. Sebastian couldn't meet my eyes and mumbled, we're just not suitable for each other after getting married, better to part ways. Not compatible? Why didn't you say that 10 years ago? Why didn't you say that before we got married? We've been married for less than a week, have you found someone more suitable? My tone grew sharper with each word. Sebastian was growing increasingly irritated. Don't keep bothering me, whether you like it or not, this marriage is over. I took a deep breath, suppressing my rising anger. How will we divide the assets? We had bought our house together, and I knew Sebastian owned another property besides his house in Drifia. Sebastian looked at me incredulously. Jennifer, how have you become like this? You're talking about money all the time. We bought the house together, so I'll give you half of its current value. Don't have any other entanglements, right? Sebastian, what about the money we saved together while working during those years? The money you spent during your failed business venture, how should we account for that? I stared at Sebastian intensely. Sebastian's expression stiffened. After a brief silence, he replied, that was for starting a business, and starting a business has risks. Besides, at that time we agreed. He faltered and couldn't continue. I reevaluated this man. He no longer had the youthful innocence from before but had matured into a man with a certain charm, wasn't repugnant, but his eyes had lost their purity from the past. When I loved him, I naturally saw him through rose-colored glasses. Now, I felt nothing but disgust when I saw him. The haze of infatuation had lifted, and I realized that he was just an ordinary man. Thinking about this, I coldly said, so your point is that your other two properties, the car we shared for the loan, and the money you have are all unrelated to me? Sebastian's expression turned even colder. Although we shared the car loan, I've been responsible for our living expenses during our time together. Besides, we've been married for less than a week, so there's no such thing as post-marriage shared property. My premarital assets are unrelated to you. If I had held on to some hope until that moment, it all evaporated in an instant. So, this was the person I had loved. I must have been completely blind to fall for Sebastian. I must have been so blind that I couldn't see through Sebastian's true nature after a whole decade. I sneered as I took a stack of photos from a box on the table and tossed them in front of Sebastian. Cheating in the marriage, even if I can't kick you out completely, I think I can get a bigger share of our assets. Sebastian picked up the photos, his face dark as a thundercloud. You were spying on me. Sebastian, if you don't want to be known, don't do it. A decade of my youth has gone to waste. A decade of love is less important to you than a moment of novelty. Sebastian's face darkened as he spoke coldly. Since you know, there's nothing left for me to hide, just take a look at yourself now. There even a trace of the innocence and loveliness you had before. I made the mistake of not thinking clearly, always trying not to let you down, and that's why I agreed to marry you. Now that you know the truth, let's get this over with. I cried out sharply, why did I turn into what I am now? Sebastian, it's all because of you, it's all your fault. Sebastian, back when I lived with you in that basement, I developed rheumatism over the years, from working tirelessly to save money. My shoulders, neck, and eyes all suffered. How could you forget all of this? Because the pressure was too much, I looked worn out. And you forget, why did I become like this? It's because I wanted to stand beside you, not cower behind you. Mid-sentence, I halted, choking back tears. Forget it, I continued, I won't say anything more. And these 10 years with you, I never imagined we'd end up like this. You've been with her for over 3 years, right? I admire how you managed to keep it hidden and lie to me every day, but you chose me for marriage and now regret it. Sebastian, I don't want anything else, just give me this house, let's divorce right away. Sebastian remained silent for a while, then got up and said, I need some time to think. I stood behind him and whispered, you better think thoroughly. If you can't figure it out, I won't mind going to your company to spread your cheating. Sebastian paused in his tracks, turned around, and glared at me with intensity. If you cause a scene at my company, don't expect to get a dime from me. I froze, taken aback by the harshness in Sebastian's eyes. I had never imagined that one day Sebastian would look at me with such a gaze. The door slammed shut with a resounding thud. I forced a bitter smile. It seemed I had been blind all along. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I received a call from one of Sebastian's colleagues. Are you Sebastian's wife? Hurry to the hospital. Sebastian suddenly collapsed, remained silent for a few seconds before replying softly, all right. The hospital. Outside the emergency room, Sebastian's colleagues and superiors were either standing or sitting. I approached and asked, what happened exactly? Sebastian's boss sighed, we don't know. We were in a meeting this afternoon when he suddenly collapsed. Maybe Sebastian has been tired from playing these days? I furrowed my brows and said, Sir, Sebastian went on a business trip the day after we got married, and he just returned last night. He's exhausted. It's probably from work, not from playing around. The boss seemed confused and turned to look at his colleagues. Hasn't Sebastian been on leave recently? How did he go on a business trip again? His colleagues shook their heads, indicating that they were unaware of the situation, explained the details about Sebastian's business trip again. The boss said he would look into it. After a whole afternoon passed, the doors of the emergency room finally opened. The doctor came out with a regretful look and said, I'm sorry, the patient had a cerebral hemorrhage, was brought here too late, and we couldn't save him. I stared in disbelief, my eyes wide. Although I had entertained malicious thoughts for a moment, I couldn't accept it when he had actually died. Regardless of everything, I had never actually wanted him to die. Most, I had cursed him in my mind during my worst moments. Sebastian's family and relatives arrived at the hospital that night. As soon as Mrs. Rutledge saw me, she raised her hand to slap me. Fortunately, I was quick to react and dodged it, or that slap would have landed on me. You jinx, you're the one who killed my son. You heartless woman, you've tormented my son to death. Are you satisfied now? Mrs. Rutledge ranted and raved, and not one of the Rutledge family members tried to stop her. I forced a bitter smile. Truly, a family resemblance runs deep. I stared coldly at Mrs. Rutledge and said, I can't say for sure who tormented him to death, but I can certainly help you find out who the real culprit is. Mrs. Rutledge was about to scold me again, but a nurse came over and warned, no fighting, this is a hospital. Mrs. Rutledge grudgingly silenced herself. While I was still trying to process the situation, Sebastian's colleague handed me his phone, Sebastian's phone. I took the phone, and it showed a call from Darling. I answered the call. On the other end, a woman coquettishly said, Honey, why haven't you talked to me all day? I replied coldly, you don't need to call anymore, he's dead. After saying that, I hung up the phone. Mrs. Rutledge looked at me with suspicion, but I didn't bother to respond. After the funeral arrangements were made, I returned home. I retrieved Sebastian's phone. From Messenger to PayPal and bank cards, I didn't miss a thing as expected. He had transferred several $100,000. I thought about how I had been so frugal over the years, and all the money I had earned had been controlled by Sebastian, who had used it to support his mistress. When rounded up, it was like I had spent my own money to support Sebastian's mistress. Just thinking about it made my heart, liver, and lungs ache. I pursed my lips and decided to get all the evidence of his transfers and find a reputable lawyer. I was determined to get the money back. After the funeral, Mrs. Rutledge went all out to demand compensation from Sebastian's company. I watched from the sidelines. In the end, the company settled for $800,000, asked for half of the compensation. Mrs. Rutledge glanced at me and asked, Are you pregnant? I shook my head. Now that my son is gone, and you're not carrying my Rutledge family's child, why should I share the compensation with you? I half smiled. I am one of Sebastian's legal heirs. I have the right to a share of the compensation. Don't even think about it. You won't get a dime of my son's assets. I'll take this house, which we bought together. You can give me half of the compensation. Otherwise, I threw the photos in front of Mrs. Rutledge. These are the evidence of Sebastian's affair. You don't agree? I'll just go to his company and tell them that he went to see his lover before work, and he probably hasn't left her bed for several days. As for this compensation, it might just disappear. Mrs. Rutledge widened her eyes and stared at the photos with an incredulous face. Where did you get these photos? Come on, at least find a believable excuse. Why would he do something like this? Don't slander him. I half smiled. Word has it that the other woman is pregnant. What do you say? Should I tell you where she is? After all, that child is Sebastian's only heir. Mrs. Rutledge suddenly stood up and asked, "Is it true?" I nodded. Mrs. Rutledge paced around the room for a while and finally made up her mind. All right, I agree. After Mrs. Rutledge transferred the money, I wasted no time and told her everything I knew. Mrs. Rutledge didn't have time to pay me any more attention and walked away. We hadn't even stepped outside when the other woman came to the door. Even though her appearance was worn, she couldn't hide that touch of allure. She stood at the doorway, timidly asking, "Is this Sebastian's place?" I looked at her indifferently and didn't respond. Mrs. Rutledge cast a suspicious glance at her, then back at me, and finally replied with a lukewarm tone, "Yes, who are you?" The other woman immediately forced out a couple of tears, and they hung on her face, refusing to fall. She played the pitiful card quite convincingly. Raoul Rutledge, who was nearby, asked with sympathy, "Young lady, are you looking for Sebastian? Come in, don't just stand at the door. Sebastian had an accident a few days ago." Mrs. Rutledge instantly became alert and shouted at Raoul, "Why don't you go pack your things? Stop meddling." Then she turned her gaze back toward the other woman, her expression not welcoming. I watched this scene unfold, and I couldn't help but almost burst into laughter. The other woman's face briefly displayed a hint of embarrassment, but it was gone in an instant. She walked up to me with composure and went straight to the point. "Sis?" I lazily glanced at her and remarked, "Sorry, but my mom only had me and my brother. You can't be my dad's illegitimate child, can you?" The other woman turned bright red, clearly taken aback by my comment. She had a strong psychological tolerance, though. She quickly recovered and said, "I'm Mila Gilbert. Heard about Sebastian's accident, so I came to check on him." Mrs. Rutledge had a brief moment of hesitation but quickly understood the situation. She immediately changed her demeanor and warmly shook Mila's hand, saying, "Mila, thank you for coming to see our Sebastian. That poor boy had quite the misfortune, getting a troublesome wife and leaving so young." Mila blushed and gave a shy smile, then lowered her head to wipe away a tear. She spoke with a hint of sorrow. And Mrs. Rutledge, Sebastian was so unfortunate, and his unborn child is also pitiable. Despite telling myself not to get angry, I couldn't help but feel like insulting her when I saw this woman, who had come to provoke us. "Mom, if you're looking for the troublemaker, she's right here. Why drag me into this? Sebastian was with her all these days. Word is, she's still carrying Sebastian's child. Isn't that trouble enough? She hasn't even married into your family, and she's already caused Sebastian's early demise." Mrs. Rutledge shot me a fierce glare and then turned back to Mila, warmly holding her hand. "Mila, don't listen to her nonsense. Sebastian is no more. Your child, the one in your belly, is his only legacy. Come with Mom, and I'll take good care of you. When you give us a healthy grandson, you'll be a hero in the Rutledge family." I couldn't hold back and sarcastically added, "Yes, come back with her. Sebastian is gone, and from now on she'll rely on you and Dad, as well as the child for survival. Oh, what a pity, you'll be a widow for life." I clearly saw Mila shiver. Well, it seems she is afraid, after all, performing as if it were all real, but I had underestimated this woman. After a brief moment, she lifted her head again and spoke softly, "Sis, I'm willing to stay single for Sebastian's sake. Just that now that his child is coming, there will be expenses for food, education, and everything. Sebastian left us like this. You can't just keep all his property for yourself, you have to leave something for his only child." Ah, there it was, the hidden agenda. Mrs. Rutledge took the bait and immediately jumped up to use Mila as her weapon. "Right, now that Mila is pregnant, you, an eggless hen, shouldn't hog the nest. Transfer the house to Mila. It's the money Sebastian earned when he was alive, and it has to go to my grandson. Also, the $400,000 just transferred, give it back to me, or I'll make you regret it." I sneered. How thick-skinned can someone be? In the past, I had tolerated and let things slide, thinking I could be pushed around just because of Sebastian, as if she believed I was an easy target. Well, it seemed as if she thought wrong. "You're a mistress, yet you dare to say these things, Mrs. Rutledge. Looks like I don't have to call you Mom anymore. Legally, I only need to provide you with a portion of Sebastian's assets for support. If you're not satisfied, how about we go to court? But by then you might end up with less." I looked calmly at Mrs. Rutledge. She glared at me but then shrank back, perhaps realizing she had miscalculated. She was just trying to cause trouble, hoping to gain something from it. Mila couldn't hold back any longer and shouted, "I'm carrying Sebastian's child in my belly. Even if we go through legal proceedings, my child has inheritance rights." I gave Mila a wry smile and said, "Too bad you hesitated for too long and didn't come earlier. Right now, Sebastian has been laid to rest, you say. How can you prove that the child is his?" Mila clearly looked stunned. Her expression then changed, mixed with regret and disappointment. It seemed like, upon hearing about Sebastian's death, her immediate reaction was to run. After all, Sebastian had an accident right after he returned from being with her, and no matter how she looked at it, she couldn't shake off the responsibility. In these days, while we were dealing with Sebastian's affairs, nobody had reached out to her. She had grown bolder, thinking of getting a share of the inheritance. Seeing everyone remain silent, I swept my hair back and spoke calmly, "Mrs. Rutledge. Remember, she's carrying your grandchild. As for the money on my side, forget it. If you want it, we can see you in court, but by then you might get even less. Believe, given Sebastian's situation, you won't just abandon this child, will you? Let me calculate, from the child's birth to school and growing up, it all costs money. The house has to be prepared for the child to live in when it grow up. Sebastian's other house could serve for that, but in several decades you'll need more money to get a new one. Aunt, congratulations, you'll be working for this child for the next 2 or 3 decades, and then you can enjoy your retirement." As I spoke, Mrs. Rutledge held Mila's hand tightly and gradually loosened her grip. Mila looked flustered, reached out to hold Mrs. Rutledge's hand, and said, "Mrs. Rutledge." However, in the blink of an eye, Mrs. Rutledge quickly assessed the situation and threw Mila's hand off, saying, "Stop calling me. Haven't seen my son bring you back. Who knows if you're telling the truth or not? Is this child really my son's? Now that my son is dead, don't think you can trick us." I laughed, Mila cried. She looked at Mrs. Rutledge in disbelief and said, "Mrs. Rutledge, the child in my belly is Sebastian's flesh and blood, your only grandson." "Ha, don't spout nonsense. Even though Sebastian is dead, I still have another son. I'll have plenty of grandsons in the future. I don't care about the one in your belly. Who knows if I might end up raising someone else's grandson. Hurry up and leave. I don't even know you." Mrs. Rutledge perfectly demonstrated what it meant to deny someone with a straight face. Mila, with a pale face, was forcibly pushed out by Mrs. Rutledge. I found it immensely entertaining. What a performance! When Mrs. Rutledge returned, I wasted no time in driving her out as well. "All right, Mrs. Rutledge, we're even now. Your son betrayed me while he was alive, and I haven't made a fuss about his inheritance. Let's part on good terms." Mrs. Rutledge shot me a glare, pulled Raoul out from the house, grabbed their luggage, and left. As they left, she slammed the door shut with a resounding bang. I stared at the swaying door, unable to regain my senses for a long time. I donated the $400,000 directly to children in the mountainous areas. That was something Sebastian and I used to do together many years ago. Later on, Sebastian became busier and didn't have time for such activities. IT had become my solitary endeavor. Today's story is over. Thank you all for listening.